Welcome back, folks, to Kleppers Corner, the only news wrap-up where the world spins out of control, and I just stand here with a microphone going, yep, that tracks. This week, September 1st through 7th, 2025, the world decided it was time to really lean into the chaos. America flexed its economic muscles so hard it pulled a diplomatic hamstring. The Middle East reminded us that just when you think things can't get worse, they actually get Wi-Fi cutting worse. Japan's prime minister called it quits because losing elections is apparently still embarrassing somewhere. Thailand installed a new leader who once legalized weed but now runs the country. Talk about career flexibility. And Europe fined Google again because nothing says continental unity like bullying Silicon Valley while sipping espresso. So buckle up, because this week wasn't just geopolitics, it was geopolitics on steroids, Red Bull, and 3 double espressos. Segment 1, the sanctions gambit. Trump's phase 2 against Russia. Let's start with America's favorite new reality show, Sanctions with Donald Trump. This week, Trump announced he's ready for phase 2 of sanctions on Russia. Because when phase 1 doesn't work, you don't rethink your strategy. You just hit refresh like a guy waiting for new Taylor Swift tickets. This time, the twist is secondary sanctions. That's Washington speak for, we're not just punishing Russia, we're punishing anyone who dares buy their stuff. Which means India, China, and basically anyone who thought cheap oil was a good idea is now on Trump's naughty list. Think about it. This is the international version of that friend who throws a dinner party and says, if you still talk to my ex, you can't come. Except the ex is Vladimir Putin, and the dinner party is the global economy. India's in a bind. On one hand, it's supposed to be America's buddy in the whole counter-China club. On the other hand, it loves a bargain, and Russian oil is like Costco gas for 1 billion people. And now Trump's basically saying, pick a side, buddy. Nothing says alliance like forcing your friend to choose between loyalty and keeping the lights on. Of course, Trump framed this like he's the hero swooping in to end the Ukraine war. But remember, this is the same guy who once said Ukraine should just do us a favor, though. His sanction strategy is basically squeeze everyone until they scream louder than Putin. It's diplomacy by Yelp review. Segment 2, the Georgia raid. Immigration meets EV supply chains. Now let's talk about the Georgia raid. No, not the football team. The giant EV battery factory in Bryan County. Homeland Security swooped in and arrested 475 workers, most of them South Korean nationals. That's right. America's big plan to kick China out of the EV supply chain just got tackled by America's own immigration cops. You can't make this up. On Monday, we're like, we need allies to build batteries so we're not dependent on China. By Thursday, we're like, surprise, everyone back on the plane to Seoul. This is like starting a band, then calling the cops on your own drummer because his visa paperwork wasn't stapled right. South Korea was not thrilled. They sent diplomats down to Georgia faster than you can say Samsung Galaxy meltdown. By week's end, over 300 workers were released and sent home, which means construction is stalled, stocks dropped, and Brian Kemp's dream project is looking less like economic development and more like demolition derby. The irony is stunning. The U.S. wants to bring supply chains home, but also wants to make sure those chains don't have any foreigners touching them. Newsflash, if you want to build a giant battery factory, you're probably going to need more than Chad from Alpharetta with a cordless drill. So congratulations, America. We've managed to alienate South Korea, halt our own EV plans, and send investors a message. Your billions are welcome here until ICE shows up with handcuffs. Segment 3, Chicago standoff, Trump versus the Windy City. Next up, Chicago. President Trump threatened to unleash his shiny new Department of War on the city because apparently Chicago crime can only be solved by rebranding federal agencies like their Marvel sequels. Governor J.B. Pritzker called it an invasion. Mayor Brandon Johnson said, you cut the ATF budget, but now you want to send in troops? That's like canceling the fire department and then starting a bonfire. Chicago even passed an executive order banning local police from helping federal agents with immigration enforcement, which means if Trump does send in troops, we could see the surreal spectacle of federal agents and Chicago cops playing a giant game of constitutional dodgeball. And here's the kicker. People are protesting in both Chicago and D.C. Thousands took to the streets, holding signs, chanting, waving flags, and probably wondering why they had to do cardio for democracy. Nothing unites America quite like fighting over who gets to run Chicago, except maybe arguing over who has the best pizza. It's deep dish. Don't at me, New Yorkers. This showdown isn't just political theater. It's a stress test for American federalism. Will the president's tanks roll into Chicago, or will the city's lawyers roll into court first? Either way, pass the popcorn, because this is going to make January 6th look like a PTA meeting. Segment 4. Gaza ceasefire proposal, hope meets reality. Now to the Middle East, where America dropped its boldest ceasefire plan yet. The idea? 6 weeks of calm, Hamas frees 33 captives. Israel frees nearly 2,000 prisoners. And aid trucks finally stop playing bumper cars at the Gaza border. Later, all hostages are freed, all prisoners are released, and poof, the war ends. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. Hamas said, sure, we welcome it, but we already agreed to something like this before. Israel? Mostly silence, except Trump claiming on Truth Social that Netanyahu already said yes. That's like me announcing my neighbor agreed to sell me their house just because I put up a for sale sign in their yard. Israel keeps bombing Gaza City, where the death toll has now topped 64,000. Hamas clings to its last bargaining chip, the hostages. And Trump keeps spinning the deal like it's the season finale of The Apprentice, Gaza edition. At its core, the problem is simple. Hamas wants survival. Israel wants Hamas gone. And Trump wants credit. That's less of a peace process and more of a love triangle where everyone's cheating. Segment 5. Houthis, airports, and internet cables. Oh my. As if the Gaza war wasn't messy enough, the Houthis decided to add a new chapter, hitting Israel's Ramon airport with a drone. One injury, airport shut down, airspace closed. That's not just an escalation, that's a we can hit you anywhere message. At the same time, undersea internet cables in the Red Sea got cut, knocking out connectivity from Saudi Arabia to India. No group claimed it, but if you've been watching the Houthis attack ships like it's Pirate Week, you can guess where the finger's pointing. So now the Gaza war isn't just about Gaza. It's about airports, shipping lanes, and whether your Zoom call in Mumbai drops mid-sentence. This is no longer a regional fight. It's a worldwide Wi-Fi nightmare. Forget the Iron Dome, Israel might need the Iron Router. Segment 6. Japan's prime minister resigns. Tariffs claim another victim. Over in Japan, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba quit after less than a year. Why? Because losing elections is still a thing there. And also because he had to swallow a humiliating tariff deal with the United States. Imagine being the leader of a proud nation, negotiating with Trump, and then having to go home and tell your voters, good news, America's happy. Bad news, you're paying more for literally everything. Turns out that doesn't win elections. Who knew? So Ishiba bowed out, saying it was the appropriate moment. Translation, I'd rather be unemployed than keep explaining this mess. Now Japan scrambles for a new leader, while China and North Korea probably pop champagne. Segment 7. Thailand's new premier, from weed to power. Meanwhile, Thailand installed a new prime minister, Anutin Charnvirakul. You might know him as the guy who decriminalized cannabis when he was health minister. Now, he's running the whole country. Talk about a glow-up. He replaces Paetongtarn Shinawatra, booted by the Constitutional Court. Thailand's politics are basically musical chairs, except the chairs are on fire and the music is just generals yelling. Anutin's rise is a win for conservatives and royalists, but a loss for reformers. Still, anyone who can go from weed legalization to prime minister deserves a Netflix docuseries, from Bong to Bangkok. Segment 8, Europe versus Google, the Brussels effect. Finally, Europe fined Google $3.5 billion for antitrust violations in ad tech. This is the 4th mega fine, which means Google is basically Europe's favorite ATM. The EU says Google favors its own tools. Google says the EU is wrong. Trump says Europe is robbing America. And somewhere in Brussels, an EU official just bought another fancy fountain pen to sign the next fine. This isn't about money. It's about who sets the rules of the digital world. Europe says us. America says big tech. China says the government. And the rest of us say, can we just skip the ads before YouTube videos without clicking twice? In conclusion, so what did we learn this week? America flexes, but sometimes flexes so hard it punches its own allies. The Middle East peace process is still stuck in the complicated relationship stage of Facebook. The Houthis are auditioning for Bond villain status. Japan showed us that tariffs can topple leaders. Thailand reminded us that cannabis really is a gateway to political power. And Europe keeps proving that while America makes the tech, Brussels makes the rules. The world isn't just unstable. It's a Jenga tower built on quicksand during an earthquake. But hey, at least we've got Kleppers Corner to laugh through it. And that's your weekly news wrap-up. Same time next week, unless the Wi-Fi goes out, in which case, blame the Houthis.